More and more I hear from the US market that the German Amazon market is an untapped gold mine. First of all, excuse me for my English. I'm a native German speaker, and while I have no problems reading English, of course, it's a different beast to talk in English. So please apologize my accent and maybe funny grammar or word choice. Anyway, the saying is, or what I've heard from different sources, it is that so-called gurus say Germany is an untapped gold mine. To prove this, I have an example. This is Amazon.com. Please ignore that some parts of it are in German, and this stuff, it's from a tool I use. For example, low carb cookbook. When you type in low carb cookbook and check the first page of results, to make it very simple, we just use X-Ray as a tool, which is basically an Excel sheet which summarizes the data from the first page in a nutshell. We see average review count 564 for a price of $16.29. 564 reviews is not easy to get, especially whitehead, to say it in a political correct way. So the idea is, hey, why not try low carb cookbook in Germany? Okay, I did that, and I've put into here the German equivalent, low carb Kochbuch, which is low carb cookbook. And here we check the Excel file too. Okay, 140 reviews. Granted, 140 reviews is not 500 or more reviews, it's much less, but still, if you're not doing shady stuff, I can see people getting 4 reviews. I can see people getting 14, even 20 reviews in a non-solicited way. But 140 to be competitive in a competitive niche? At least the saying, it's so easy, it's an untapped gold mine. Honestly, no. And again, some say, hey, look at before you might ask, the average bestseller rank here, 14,000. To compare this, look at the total revenue. Here in Germany, and again, here in the US. Of course, these are estimates, but it's just for the sake of argument. The market is much smaller. And about the bestseller length, as a rule of thumb, you have to know, you have to multiply the German rank times 5 or times 10 to get the US American equivalent, because reasons. Market is much smaller, and basically you don't have to forget that the US market is flooded with books from non-US countries. The same is not true for Germany or for the German market. There are some Austrians, some Switzerlands, some Netherlands, and a bit of Eastern Europe who buys from a German market, but basically that's it. On .com, it's not the same. I for myself buy on .com too. So it dilutes the results and you have to adjust for that. So it's not that easy. And even our success score here says it. But granted, here 1 star, here 1.5 star. I'm not talking about if these stars are accurate or if this tool is accurate. It's just for the sake of argument. And then, even if you say, okay, I am willing to do gray hat stuff. I am willing to pump 200 fake reviews, whatever, on my book, or I have a following, which is a different beast. But as your average outsourced publisher, first of all, how do you want to get 140 German reviews? Do you have the connections? Do you have the network? And if you do, how to put it politely? Here in DeepL, which is basically a Google Translator on steroids, the results are much better. do you really think it's so easy to translate that stuff? From English to German, first of all, there are less cheap Fiverr gigs available because the cheapest persons you can get to translate into German on average is Eastern European poor countries. Well, no, it's not cheap because even the most poor Eastern European country on average offers a better living standard than your average guy from Venezuela. And maybe some of you might know that you can get the cheapest translations from English to Spanish, Spanish to English, etc. if you use Venezuelan Fiverr gigs, because they are desperate for money, to put it very obvious. But you can't get that cheap prices for German because there are not enough Indian or Venezuelan persons to exploit, basically. So the prices are higher. The market is smaller. You still need over 100 reviews, and then you can, as I've seen it so many times, especially in fiction, but more and more non-fiction too. People go and say, hey, I use Google Translator or tools like this DeepL stuff, and I just auto-translate. If you can read German, you will see that the right translation here, it's readable, and I understand the gist of it, but still it's shit. And we Germans don't like that. It's a stereotype, but it's some truth in it. We like to complain and give 1 stars for such shit, especially in fiction. It destroys the complete immersion for the reader, and people don't like that. It's easier and the problem is it's easier to translate from, say, French, Italian, or German into English than the other way around. It's much more complicated. The thing is, with English is, in my opinion, an easy to learn language, but very hard to master. If you want to have really, really, really good English, granted, it's even more complicated than German, trust me. But the stupid average stuff, like your recipe book or your two girls, one lucky boy, porn, erotic text, the English is much more easier than the German or French or Italian equivalent. So forget about just auto-translating this stuff. And, well, translators are expensive, so you're stuck anyway. So you have to put in a lot of money, and for that money, I would guess for a 10k words recipe cookbook, let's say you do your average low carb diet book, and you paid, okay, you can get them as cheap as $50 when you know what you're doing, but it's not uncommon to pay $300, right? It's possible, or $200 for a decent, I don't want to say the word because it's still cheap, but a thread from the mill book. Okay, let's say you paid $300 with the cover and all. Why should you translate the book for $500 in German? Why should you translate it even for $300? You should even consider not translating it for $200, because better use the $200 for a real English book, because another point, the English book you can proofread yourself. If you would order, let's say I have a Fiverr gig, a German translation from me, and I see you're an average American idiot, who has no clue about German, I would just use that tool. Copy paste, here you have your text. Boom. Because I will realize you will never ever be able to tell the difference. Of course, I'm exaggerating because I wouldn't do it because you could leave me a bad review and I will not get future orders from you. But still, there are enough people thinking that way. Imagine you create 2 or 3 new Fiverr accounts. This is what people do, or Upwork accounts for the sake of argument. And you're from Eastern Europe. Get yourself a, let's say, $100 contract. Copy paste here. You do a few of them, and $1,000 earned. Boom, account burned. Who cares? New one. That happens. So you cannot control the quality. It's basically impossible unless you can speak German. And if you can speak German, you know that it's a stupid idea anyway to translate thread from the middle books anyway. So it's cost-wise not efficient. You will get destroyed by bad reviews. And in addition, remember this, it's not that easy. Another point is, especially in recipes, what I see all the time, even Germans do this because we have lazy publishers, let's call them that way, too. Cups, no cups. It's grams, it's liters, it's milliliters. It's not cups. No German cooks with cups. There are some exceptions in the kitchen, like, say, use a handful of cashew nuts. You can use that, but then again, it's here and there sprinkled in. But in general, use 100 grams of cashew nuts, not say use 2 cups of cashew nuts. This will get your book destroyed too in the reviews. And in addition, not everyone is able to convert from cups to gram in a coherent way. It's not that simple. So even if you do go that extra mile, is it really worth it? Do you want to translate a book for $300 and then sit 3 days converting your measurements, or pay some dude converting your measurements and hoping he does not fuck you up? Because some people just use, 30 what has been an example? I'm not sure exactly, but 1 tablespoon of butter is 30 grams. So they think 30 grams is always 1 tablespoon, no matter the ingredient. I've seen that stuff on Fiverr. So it's not easy on that part too. So just forget about it. I, as an American, or as someone being active on the American market, would consider, with recipes, converting them myself with good tools like Chronometer is a good one. Just Google it. Convert it to grams and release it as an UK edition, because the British and their colonies or former colonies, they like to use the European measurements too. And then maybe one day, if my book is still selling, I can consider translating it. Of course, if you don't use recipes because you're in fiction, it's easy on that part. But then again, you have the translation issue. And honestly, translating recipes is one beast. Translating fiction and then again getting what the book wants to say, the flair, in a different language. It's an art, it's a skill which you cannot get for cheap. So, while in a nutshell, as a summary, it is possible to translate your book, and it is to some degree correct that the German market is, let's say, easier than the US market. But the arguments the gurus say to increase your profits and revenues, it's not that simple. And most of you out there, it's better for you to just forget the idea. Just forget it. I know some guys, they are twins, and they're very popular on YouTube, marketing their pieces of crap courses. By the way, those who know who I'm talking about, their ads are hilarious. Real authors hate us, and they're targeting real authors with their thread from the mill, how to outsource cheap, half plagiarized, fake reviewed books. It's so stupid. Those and others in their circle got problems with Google translations. And I know one guy from Hawaii who also got his account suspended, not terminated, but suspended for Google translations. So the cheap route is also blocked. So just don't do it. It's not worth it. You have no clue about the cultural differences, about the price points, and it's really not that simple. To give you another example, in the US, I know maybe some of you are familiar with that name. Some people see, hey, Anthony William and his medical medium stuff. I do such book in a different language. Well, sorry, when I go to Germany, it's here too, from Anthony Williams, translated and with not that many reviews, but here you have more reviews. In 2016 already, it's basically, do I find the English equivalent? Never mind, I don't see where the English equivalent of that book is. So the big names with their brandings and their ideas, which markets to tap on. A few years ago, you could go in the US market and see, for example, good example has been Spiral Slicer and Rice Cooker. And yes, you could go to Germany and just basically translate your book and you would be the first one. But that time is over. We can use the internet too. Many Germans under 14, at least enough of them, can read and, very important, comprehend English too. So we already know this. The delay is a few months at most. And sometimes we are faster in different areas than you. Example given. I don't say it because it's a keyword which I will say in another video when it's tapped on in. But my advice for you is use the German market, even use the French market to find new ideas you don't have on the radar, because the other way around is not that popular. Much more people go into .com to get ideas for Germany or France or even Britain or Spanish and especially Italian market, but not so many the other way. In some areas, we are ahead of you in some trends. And so just use the idea to go on different markets to learn about it, to get new ideas, but don't ever think just translating and making the bigger money is that easy.